Good evening, class. My name is Andrew Cary, and I'm a student here at American Military University. This is Business 604 with Dr. Kathleen Shriver, and this week I will be conducting training on sensitivity analysis and capital budgeting. Let's start out with what capital budgeting is. Capital budgeting is used by companies to evaluate major projects and investments such as new plants or equipment, or even investing in a corporate aircraft. The process involves analyzing a project's cash inflows and outflows to determine whether the expected return meets a set benchmark. The major methods of capital budgeting include discounted cash flows, payback analysis, and throughput analysis. Though there are a number of capital budgeting methods, three of the most common ones are discounted cash flow, payback analysis, and throughput analysis. The analysis involves estimating the amount of money the business has to invest and the amount of revenue the project will generate. What are capital budgeting projects? Firms continue to grow and thrive by investing in new capital projects that earn more than they cost. So they must constantly be looking for new products and markets or new production methods. Analyzing capital projects accurately is vital and requires knowledge of both accounting and finance and attention to detail. There are many different types of projects firms may consider. Replacement projects, which consist of existing assets to continue current operations. Efficiency projects, which are usually associated with a change in technology that lowers the firm's production costs. Expanding into new products. This is when the firm is adding to its current product line. Expanding into new markets, which is when the firm is trying to capture new market shares using its existing product line. Safety or environmental projects, which are projects that are typically required by the government to meet safety or an environmental standard. General maintenance, things like adding a warehouse or even a parking structure. Sensitivity analysis and capital budgeting. Sensitivity analysis, simply put, is an analysis that provides an additional insight for the business to make an investment decision. One of the main benefits of sensitivity analysis is that it allows you to identify the key drivers of your project's profitability and risk. Some of the cons, however, sensitivity analysis also has some limitations and drawbacks that you should be aware of. One of the main challenges is that it only considers one variable at a time, while in reality, many factors are interrelated and can change simultaneously. This can lead to unrealistic or incomplete results as it ignores the effects of correlation and interaction among the variables. Another issue is that sensitivity analysis can be time-consuming and complex, especially if you have many variables and scenarios to analyze. The data can also be difficult to interpret and communicate, as you may end up with a large amount of data and graphs that can be confusing and at times misleading. How to use sensitivity analysis effectively. To overcome some of the disadvantages, you should follow some of the best practices and guidelines when applying sensitivity analysis to your capital budgeting decisions. First, you should select the most relevant and critical variables for your project and avoid analyzing too many factors that have little or no impact. You should use realistic and reasonable ranges and values for your variables and avoid extreme or arbitrary changes. Third, you should complement your sensitivity analysis with other tools and methods such as scenario analysis, break-even analysis, or even a Monte Carlo simulation. Now, let's have a look at the qualitative standpoint of a sensitivity analysis. At this stage, we need to ensure the business case identifies potential costs and benefits. During this process, stakeholders should take part in the review. Stakeholders are those whom the business decision would have a substantial impact on. Marketing groups identify needs utilizing focus groups, general awareness of the industry, or by understanding a complete life cycle of current product sets. For a business case analysis to be completed, the qualitative aspects of a product need to be quantified. Now let's look at it from a qualitative standpoint. An initial quantitative picture should take the following costs into account: market research, distribution channels, promotion, and advertising, rollout, and implementation. These are not just interesting aspects. This needs to be answered to quantify costs and revenues. A cost and revenue projection is generally your best rationale to proceed or pass on a product. When looking at the quantitative aspects of a sensitivity analysis, we also need to quantify operational and customer service costs, which may limit a product's profitability, and also the cost drivers we need to consider: technology, systems, implementation plans, and training. What is the technology we need to produce this product in hand? Do we have to buy it? How much will it cost to purchase and maintain? For systems, are the required methods and processes in place, or are we going to have to develop them? For implementation plans, are the plans feasible? Are the timelines reasonable with existing staff, or are we going to need to do more hiring? For training, we need to consider if our staff or customers will need additional training to produce or use the proposed product. In order to determine the viability of a product, companies will use budgeting techniques. This is the secret to growing a business. Invest in projects that earn more money than they cost. If a project covers its own costs and the cost the firm pays its investors, any money left over can be used to invest in more projects and thereby fuel more growth. Let's have a look at the 5 major methods used for valuing investment projects. We have the payback period, discounted payback period, net present value, internal rate of return, and the modified internal rate of return. Adjusting for risk in capital budgeting. WACC stands for weighted average cost of capital. It is a financial metric used to assess the costs of financing a company's operations and investment projects. WACC takes into account the various sources of capital a company uses, including equity and debt, and assigns weight to each source based on the relative proportions in the company's capital. WACC is a crucial tool for evaluating investment opportunities because it represents the minimum rate of return that a company should achieve on its investments to satisfy its investors and creditors. If an investment project or a company's operations can generate a return higher than the WACC, it is considered financially viable. On the other hand, if the return is lower than the WACC, the project may not become economically feasible. Therefore, WACC should be used as the discount rate for the NPV analysis if the project under consideration is of average risk compared to other projects. If a project is more or less than average risk, WACC can be adjusted to take that risk into account. Projects above average risk increase the WACC, which in turn decreases the NPV of the project. For projects of less than average risk, decrease the WACC, which will increase the NPV of the project. I thank you for your time and attention. I hope you all have a great evening. Thanks. Again, I really appreciate your attention throughout this corporate training on sensitivity analysis and capital budgeting. Here's a list of my references. Have a good evening.